AI solution providers aren't going to discard data. They're going to use that information and store it just in case it's ever needed. Think twice, input once.
Hello and welcome back to the RCHT Podcast. This week we're talking about AI, where we're seeing tools like Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude and others becoming more common in the workplace. And for many of us, they're starting to play a role in our day-to-day life. But there are some questions about AI. What's safe? What's not safe? And how do we make the most of these tools without putting patients, colleagues or our organisation at risk? Friend of the podcast and cybersecurity lead for Royal Cornwall Hospitals, Martin Price, is here to help answer some of these questions. Martin, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
So, AI is everywhere now. What has this meant for you from your cybersecurity lead perspective?
I think it's led to a sort of an increased awareness of the powers of AI and what it can be used for, what it is being used for, and perhaps most importantly, what it should be being used for. I think it's a case of a lot of the issues are sort of probably more data security. Who are we sharing our data with? Where's it going? Why? Who has access to it? And so on. I think the AI companies are just as keen to keep that data secure because it's going to sort of increase their revenue. So, but it has meant that we're sort of seeing more requests for access to AI, and we're having to sort of scrutinise those more carefully.
So has your perspective on AI changed over like the past year or so then?
Yes, I think if we sort of wind back 12 months ago, we were seeing one or two requests for access to ChatGPT to sort of test its functionality, see what it could do, what the benefits might be. Now, pretty much every solution we're being asked to review, whether it's sort of cloud-based or even some of the on-premise apps that we're sort of being asked to deploy, has some element of AI built into it, and we have to sort of look at that carefully and decide are there clinical safety aspects perhaps about it? Are there sort of data security aspects about where that data might end up in order to be able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. What's the difference then between using kind of AI at home and AI in a workplace, especially, at the NHS?
I think it's a case of at home. We sort of tend to sort of associate perhaps one particular app. So in the same way that we don't vacuum the house, we hoover the house. I think ChatGPT has become synonymous with AI solutions and those kind of sort of chat bots that will give us the answer. And I think at home it's perfectly acceptable to sort of type a question into ChatGPT or any of the other sort of solutions available and get a response back. And at the end of the day, whatever I type in at home, it's my data, it's my choice. But the difference when we're sort of working for the NHS is a case of we have to think carefully about, is that data confidential? Is it identifiable? What might happen if that data got into the wrong hands? And so we have to think carefully about it.
And let's talk about data security. What sort of things should people really stop and think about when they're putting data into an AI tool?
I think it's very important to make sure that there's no identifiable data in there. Sometimes we get asked, is it okay if I put some data in where we have anonymised it? But when we sort of start to dig into the depths of it, we discover that actually, yes, you could still identify the patient if you had access to PAS or to the NHS numbers. So I think it's important that we don't include any confidential data and don't include any identifiable data, and double checking, can that data still be identified?
And what could happen if that data does get into the AI system?
If that data gets into the AI system, we have to bear in mind that the AI systems use the data that they're gathering and the answers that they're giving to train. So we could find a question asked later on by a completely different organisation, in fact, in a different part of the world. Suddenly, the AI solution responds, including that information, because it thinks it's relevant.
So a scenario that some people might recognise is they've got an email that's a bit rough around the edges and they just want to drop it into an AI tool to tidy it up. What do they need to think about before they kind of press enter?
I think it's important to sort of think about what is it I'm trying to achieve here? So removing any identifiable, any confidential information, and using the AI tool simply to improve the grammar, to improve the context, improve the flow of the language, and sort of thinking, okay, I can always add the identifiable, confidential information back in later. If what I'm trying to do is make sure I've got full stops in the right places and I'm using have instead of and that sort of thing, then that's the important thing to consider.
And what about something like summarising notes or documents as well? What would people need to look out for there?
We have got a trial within RCHT running at the moment with a couple of solutions called ambient voice technology that are sort of summarising where a clinician is sort of gathering information about the patient to sort of help them with a diagnosis. But I think the important thing to remember is if we're summarising notes, again, it's about sort of remembering no confidential information, no identifiable information. All we're doing in that example is using a slightly different context of I want to improve the way that I'm trying to write this email. Much the same, I'm trying to make sure that I've gathered all the information in my clinical notes as I can to aid my diagnosis.
Yeah, and we hear terms like secure AI and enterprise AI. What does that mean?
I think secure AI is probably referring to the fact that it's perhaps a closed system and therefore it's less likely to be shared across the globe. But that doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't still undertake the same due diligence and be thinking about, is this information restricted to just people in my organisation, or could it be shared with other NHS organisations or other healthcare organisations, particularly in the US? And therefore thinking, actually, I guess it's a case of a bit like it's sort of when we're sort of thinking about social media, that posting something on social media is a bit like nailing it to the tree. It's much the same situation. Would I give this information out if I was having this chat in the corridor with the public walking past? I think that's the important consideration. If it's in a locked room and only other staff from RCHT could access that room, then yes, that's probably more acceptable. But if it's a case of actually anybody from the NHS could walk in, then it may be less acceptable.
You mentioned earlier ambient voice technology,
yes,
and that's about kind of recording a consultation, where the AI records a consultation between a clinician and a patient.
Yep.
How are we keeping kind of that data secure, or making sure that the data that the patient sort of talks to the clinician about is secure and safe?
We've had to make sure that we've undertaken not only cyber due diligence but also data protection due diligence on the solution. So we've had to make sure that there's that our data is safe, that it's not leaving the UK, that there's backups of it, that we've got assurances that a cyber criminal couldn't get into the system, and we've also, or our colleagues in information governance have also had to make sure that there's no data protection risks. So making sure that sort of we know who we're sharing the data with, as I mentioned earlier, for what purpose, where's that data going, why is it going there, and when, more importantly, because this is only a trial at this stage. So at some point that trial will come to an end and we'll make a decision as to which, if any, of those solutions we're going to go live with. Yeah.
I suppose that technology is a bit different to the large language models that people might be aware of, like Copilot and ChatGPT, because I assume that the voice technology is just using those models to kind of pick up on the language used and then create an output, and it's not storing that that conversation in the same way. Is that right?
It's probably the sort of ambient voice technology solutions are probably using the recordings in much the same way that digital dictation has been used. That it's sort of learning from sort of the way the sort of voices it's hearing, particularly the clinician's voice, and
right.
Using that to sort of it's effectively, if we go back to the email sort of summary, I want to improve the way that my email is written.
Yeah.
It's about trying to improve the information we're capturing. By capturing everything, then hopefully the system is able to sort of capture sort of some of the information that the clinician might have otherwise missed if he's sort of scribbling notes or trying to type it straight into the clinical system.
So those systems are continuing to grow based on what they're hearing as well. well.
Yes.
Then, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a couple of myths going around as well that we've seen. Some people are wondering whether everything that you type into AI is stored and shared. That's true, isn't it?
Yes, potentially. Ultimately, the AI solution providers aren't going to discard data because it's not relevant, because at the end of the day they don't necessarily know what is relevant or not relevant to the particular question. So they're going to use that information and store it just in case it's ever needed, and to provide it in a response.
And another myth might be if it's just admin work, it's safe.
It depends what you're doing in your admin work. I guess it's a case of if it's anonymized data and you're just using it to improve your report writing or your email drafting, then that's probably fine. But it's a case of keep the identifiable data and the confidential data out.
Yeah, there's probably always a risk with anything that you put in.
Yeah.
Definitely. What would your kind of top 2 or 3 tips be to using AI safely at work?
I guess a bit like sort of that sort of old sort of DIY saying, measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
I think it's a case of think twice, input once.
Yeah.
I mean,
because once it's in there, that's it. It's in there, isn't it?
There's
no way of getting it out.
Even if you say, actually, I want to edit that, there is no way of editing the information. Even if you type a new prompt, that prompt has been input, and even if it comes whatever response it comes back with, right, wrong or otherwise, your input is still there.
Yeah. But we don't want people to be put off using AI completely, do we?
No.
Or do we?
we want to encourage people to be using Copilot Chat. That is the nationally supported solution for AI. I've been on the periphery of sort of some of the work that NHS England have been doing to make sure that it is the solution is secure, that it's only shared amongst the NHS, and that our data doesn't leave our organisation. So
we've kind of got a container for our version of Copilot that just keeps the data within the NHS and doesn't go out to feed kind of the other chatbots that might be out there.
That's right, yeah. It is sort of an exclusive version for the NHS, and our data doesn't leave our NHS organisation because we can uniquely identify all of our users as working for RCHT, or indeed any of our sort of customers within the ICS in Cornwall. We can say, yes, your data won't leave, and that is the preferred solution, the only solution we support. Unfortunately, the information we can see through our web gateway suggests that people are using other solutions, and some of those are less than reputable.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to somebody who's listening to this and thinking, maybe I shouldn't just use it at all and be safe?
I think it's a case. It's down to personal choice. If you don't feel safe using it, there's no pressure to use it. It's not a case of it's compulsory. But I think if you follow the guidelines and you follow and you're aware of the acceptable use policy that's published online from NHS England regarding the use of Copilot Chat, then you'll be perfectly safe. And as I said, if you're in any doubt, don't input it.
Yeah. Have you been using it much in your role?
Not really, no. I'm perhaps too old in the tooth now to be starting to sort of use new technology and new functionality, but I have used it. I sort of tend to perhaps sort of use it more for sort of for at home and for pleasure more than sort of for work related.
Do you think that AI is going to increase cyber risks for us in the NHS? Are we prepared for it?
Yes, it will increase the risks to the NHS. Yes, it will increase cyber risks globally. What we're already seeing now is that with the use of AI tools built into tools to sort of detect vulnerabilities, that cyber criminals can go from zero to having a workable exploit within 30 minutes now. So these tools are allowing the cyber criminals to work at machine speed while we're still working at human speed to try and detect them and patch against them. So it is a growing concern, and it's growing exponentially at the moment. Fortunately, I think for the majority of cyber criminals who we come across, who are commodity criminals, i.e. after a sort of smash and grab rather than sort of state-sponsored, nation-state criminals. They haven't sort of got up to speed yet with those AI solutions, but it is just a matter of time. It's a bit like give enough monkeys and enough typewriters and they'll type the works of Shakespeare.
Yeah, and I suppose that at some point they might start using the Copilot to polish off the emails that they write that might have the odd grammatical error that we can sometimes spot.
And that's what we are seeing, that in the same way that we're saying yes, you can use Copilot Chat and other AI tools to sort of improve the way your email is written. They're using the same tools to make their emails look more authentic, more realistic,
more convincing. Yeah, absolutely. If someone listening just remembers one thing from this conversation, what would you like them to remember?
The use of AI is safe providing you're using it within the boundaries and you're using the solutions that are supported and available to you as an NHS Trust employee. And if you're using anything else, that's probably in a no-go area.
Absolutely. Martin, it's been great to talk to you again about this. Thank you so much for coming along.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
If there's an improvement or achievement within your team you'd like to talk about or a story you'd like to share, please contact us on rcht.communication@nhs.net, as we'd love to hear from you.
And don't forget to subscribe so you can be notified of future episodes.
We are RCHT.